Hello, you're very welcome to the JMac podcast. I'm Shock Man, and of course, this podcast is brought to you by Orgretch.com and Atak.ie. Use the promo code JMac podcast to get 15% off on Orgretch.com and get the best skins, gloves, equipment on Atak.ie. Be attack minded. And tonight, I'm joined by former Antrim footballer Kevin Mccarthy and GA Fan TV host and creator Aaron Prendergast to talk about the Untitled Cup semi-finals and this weekend's All-Ireland quarterfinals, lads. So success for Cavan and Westmeath yesterday, so they go on to the Untitled Cup finals now in a couple of weeks' time. So delighted the lads on board. I'm joined by Kevy from a windswept Edinburgh.
Yep, bit of windswept, but John enjoyed the games at the weekend. Unfortunately, the GA hierarchy are crying because the two most miserable counties in Ireland have made it to the Tailteann Cup, Westmeath and Cavan, so they're not expecting a big payday for it. But look, the games at the weekend, I suppose we got what we expected. Bit of entertainment. The quality wasn't great, but I'm sure we'll come on to talk about them, and really looking forward to getting our teeth in later on to 4 big quarterfinals this weekend.
Great stuff, Kevin. Great stuff. Yeah, no, it'll be a great day now in a couple of weeks' time for all the Cavan faithful. Aaron, how you keeping?
Yeah, I'm doing good, John. Doing well. Keep it living the dream. All the rest of you, you know yourself. I'm sure there's some wild celebrations in Cavan Town at the weekend, and some big celebrations in Westmeath as well. And who knows? I think could Cavan be in trouble finally?
Jesus, don't get me blood rising. Good stuff, lads. Good stuff. So,
Aaron, the rumor is a couple of people broke open their wallets last night. Cavan Town. So there was just no pints, and they all went back to the drawing board.
Whose idea was it to put Cavan in Croke Park 3 times in 1 year? Like, geez.
Disaster, lads. Disaster. €7
the last time that happened, you would have to get on to Michael J. Fox to get a land of that time machine of his.
€7 for a pint at Code Line in Malahide Friday, Kev. So what you get that?
It was a tenner at the Emirates last week at the Killers, John. So stop crying.
$7. Holy moly.
Yeah.
Holy moly, lads. There you go.
$6.50 in town for a pint. So it's basically like that everywhere.
I know. The country's on its knees, Kev.
Blame Leo Varadkar.
Yeah, I don't know how to point the finger. Right, good stuff, lads. We will move on to the action yesterday in the Untitled Cup semi-final at Croke Park. It was Cavan 20 points to Sligo's 114. I suppose a good game, Aaron. Nice and open. Cavan looked very comfortable for the first 25 minutes, maybe switched off at times. Got over the line against a very, very spirited Sligo performance there.
Yeah, look, I mean, they got over the line in the end. It probably wasn't vintage Cavan maybe, and vintage what we've seen from them. I think their performances in the Tailteann Cup have been a lot better than this one. But look, at the same time, they got the job done, like finishing with 20 points, and you're not even getting the best out of Paddy Lynch even yet as well. I mean, he only kicked 1 point. Like, Lyons done a great job of full back. Like, I think his performance really needs to be commended for Sligo. So yeah, like, to be honest with you though, like when you look at Sligo's chances and the opportunities that they had in front to go, like Paddy O'Connor obviously, having 2 shots cleared off the line, he's another one that flies over the bar as well. I do think Sligo will look back with a bit of regret. Definitely a missed opportunity. Like the chances that they had different times in the game were crucial, really. Like, and you might have been in a fair bit of trouble if some of those goals went in. But in fairness to Cavan though, like, they just, I don't know what it is, but you do seem to keep finding ways to win games this year. Like, even in Division 4 a lot of the time, like, it'd be close going down the home stretch. There'd only be 2 or 3 points in it, but you do enough to pull through. So I suppose it is a sign of a good team when you're able to win without playing at your absolute best. And as you were saying, McLaughlin, a cornerback, like, he was an absolute savage, really, wasn't he? He was fantastic. McKiernan obviously kicks 5 points as well. So yeah, look, a job done at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, definitely, Aaron, definitely. And I suppose kind of looking into the game itself, obviously, like, it was a very kind of rip-roaring start by Cavan. Like, they came out all guns blazing. There was kicked some unbelievable scores. Seems to be a lot of work being done on the training ground. So it was a blister start. Sligo go back into it with a goal. A lot of people weren't saying it was a penalty. So what was your take maybe on the penalty for Sligo, Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, look, it was a questionable one. I mean, you've seen some of them given, you've seen some of them not given, but I mean, I think at the same time, like, I think Sligo had a huge amount of goal chances, really. Like, and fair enough, maybe they could have got a penalty there, but I do think at the same time, I think they should probably be looking at themselves with those chances, with some of those opportunities missed. But look, at the same time, in fairness to them, like, they are a Division 4 side. It wasn't like they were promoted this year or anything like that. They're obviously, you know, a fairly young team. A lot of young lads obviously coming through the panel, coming through the team at the minute. Definitely a lot of sense of optimism for the future. I think Tony McEntie's done a very good job there. So, like, in fairness to McEntee and to Sligo, although they'll be disappointed with how the result went, and there might be a bit of hint of regret in terms of some of those missed opportunities, I do think they're moving in the right direction. And, you know, I think going into Division 4, like, you know, you'd probably have them as one of the favourites. I don't think Laois are really going to do much, to be honest with you. I think Wicklow might be up there. So yeah, you know, a bit of sense of optimism for the Sligo supporters.
Definitely. I suppose looking into the game itself, obviously, as I was saying, Cavan started very well, and I think a really impressive stat from the first half is 11 different scorers. So that's maybe like a sign of where maybe things are at in the Cavan team, like a list of scores. Even Killian the Gunner Brady got up and kicked the point down. So very impressive stuff by the lads at the start in the first half.
Yeah, I mean, to have 11 different scores, and that's not the first time Cavan have had that as well. Like, I mean, they've had a couple of times this year where they're getting a wide variety of scores, and you probably see a lot of the time with some of the teams around Division 3 and 4 where they might have, you know, one or two sharpshooters that they might be reliant on. Maybe Westmeath at times have looked to Heslin, although this year they are in that semi-final, I think they had a wide range of players who really, you know, kicked into gear. But in fairness, as you said there, like, I mean, they're getting scores from all over the pitch. I mean, James Smith with 2 points from midfield, Connor Brady with a point, Killian Clark with a point, Martin Riley in there as well. So, like, they're getting all sorts of options really from way out the field. Keane Madden kicks a point coming off the bench as well. So it's a sign of a very, very good side, very well-rounded side. And as I said, you know, Paddy Lynch, who we were all lauding throughout the Ulster Championship, you know, he was marked very well out of the game. And I think that's a positive, though, from a Cavan perspective, because if you can get him into gear as well, you know, he could do damage and really hurt that Westmeath full-back line. And although a lot of people were very happy with Westmeath's performance, and look, they scored 322. It was a great performance, but Offaly didn't play great and still scored 216. So, you know, how much are Cavan going to get against them? So, and 11 different scores in the first half, quite a statistic.
Absolutely. Your take on the Cavan Sligo game, Kevy?
Well, I suppose, John, look, it was job done for Cavan, but I think Aaron summed it up pretty well. Lackluster performance, quality start. I think when Mickey Graham, Shonny Johnson ran them go away and look at this game, they only really played for 20 minutes, 25 minutes of the game. You know, the first 14, 15 minutes, they ruled, they bossed the game, they take the right options. They score some phenomenally good points, and then they just go to sleep for a period of time in that middle third of the game. And then really, it's only really when O'Connor misses that goal chance, sparks it back into life again, and they kick 2, 3 points, 4 points without reply to really, you know, solid up the game. So I suppose overall for Cavan, it's job done, but they'll be really, really disappointed in terms of the level of performance. Bar Jason McLaughlin. Okay, we can talk about Geroid McKierney scores 4 points. I think one from a free from play. But really, is there a lot of Cavan guys that can come away from Croke Park Gasty with their heads held high?
Jerry Smith, Oisin Kernan.
Smith played. Sorry, yeah, you're right. Smith scored 4 points as well. So, you know, but really, in an overall performance in a team where, again, I don't want to keep harping back to it, but we'll go back to the Ulster Championship a couple of years ago. So much of a team, so much work ethic throughout, working for each other. You know, still, you know, Thomas Galligan maybe not hitting the heights that we want to him. Martin Riley taking off early enough yesterday. Yes, you know, he did contribute a point. And then
I think he went off injured.
Yeah, he gets injured. Yeah. So that's maybe a wee bit of a concern for them. So, you know, the more experienced players, you know, McGee McKiernan stepping up when the time is right. But it's a game probably where Cavan are happy to get over the line, having only played maybe for 20, 25 minutes. But on the flip side of that, like, Tony McEntiee's probably scratching his head today. And, you know, okay, Cavan get a goal chance in the second half, really should take it. In the first half. And that's maybe, you know, what sparks things into life. I think it's James Smith gets a goal chance when it comes across the goal. The goalkeeper makes a really good save, knocks it out for 45. You know, so, you know, at that stage, they were 6-0 up, started really, really well. looked as if they could have the game dead and Barry could control the game. And then they sort of lost their way a wee bit. And, you know, I think it was Patsplan gets the first point on 15 minutes. You know, when Cavan weren't in the game at all, Sligo weren't in the game at all at that stage, all of a sudden springs them into life. They get the penalty on the 20th minute, and then obviously they have them 2 goal chances that that aren't articulated very well about. O'Connor with the first one, what a rasper of a shot in the 20th minute on the side of the bar, you know. No luck.
He shouldn't have been given that space either, Kevin. Like, it was criminal. We were standing off him, like.
No, but I'm going to come to that point in one second, John, and there's a good point you make. But yeah, in the second chance, you know, the Mickey Gordon chance in the 34th minute, if he's able to score that just before halftime, that would have had a different complexion on the game. And Cavan were really asleep from the 15th minute right up to the edge of halftime. And, you know, let me just come back to the point you made. If we look at snapshots of the first 12 to 15 minutes, Sligo were playing this sort of zonal defence. But Cavan, what really impressed me was they were picking the right options. They were playing, you know, they were retaining ball. They were looking for the right option. And some of the shooting, you know, Patrick Lynch only scored 1 point yesterday. And again, the guy's probably going away in the season he's had. Wee bit disappointed yesterday. He didn't get into the game a wee bit more. But by God, that was a beautiful point he kicked in the first half, you know. I think Clark gets one with the outside of his foot as well at that stage. It was a real good score. So, you know, the zonal defence, they were picking the right options. But on the flip side of that, when we look at Cavan's defence, you know, we have to ask questions about it. And, you know, when you're going in, and we'll come on to talk about the game against Westmeath coming up, you know, you can't afford to give players Luke Loughlin and, you know, and certainly John Hesson, that sort of room that, you know, Cavan, the 4 goal chances they conceded yesterday in the county game. What sort of defence is that? You have to be asking questions about it. And, you know, they were ripped apart at times at the back. And, you know, as I said at the start, it was job done for Cavan. But realistically, McEntee's probably scratching his head this morning. You know, 1 or 2. Paddy O'Connor comes away with 1-2 yesterday. One of them was a mark. One of them was a penalty. Realistically, he could have come away with 3-3, 3-4 in that game on a better day, you know. And I want to come back to the point that you asked Aaron about, and I think this is a really important point that we need to talk about. I think it was Paul Falloon that refereed the game from down. Decent enough referee. But the penalty, it was a penalty, you know. And if you look at the immediate reaction of 2 or 3 Sligo players around the play attempting to score, O'Connor attempting to score, they automatically turn and look at the referee. Now, it's great clearance off the line, but for me, it's attempted foot block. It's a penalty, straight up penalty. And for me, you know, Cavan got away with one. But as I say, when the game was in the balance, there's a goal chance for Sligo, and the way that Cavan respond is particularly encouraging for Mickey Graham, the character of the show. Go down the pitch, knock over a few scores, and in a way, it mirror image what happened in the league game earlier on in the season. Cavan won, I think, by 6 points down in Markovich Park. Again, they were 8-4 down. Gerard McKiernan stepped up with a couple of scores, and when the game was in the mix, the more experienced Cavan players took the game by the scruff of the neck and seen them over the line that day, as happened on Sunday. One other point I just want to make is Sean Carbine played for Sligo. I think he landed at 13, and he's been really, really good player this year for them, and scoring regularly. What it was a bit disappointed was, if you actually look at 1 or 2 of his scores, they're pretty much outside 30, 35 yards. He wasn't close enough to goal for me once or twice to cause a bit of damage. If he had been left in there and exposed the Cavan full back line, I think maybe Sligo could have benefited a wee bit more. Also, the introduction of Murphy changed the complexion of the game in a way. If he had started, that would have caused Cavan a wee bit more.
Niall Murphy's retired now as well, gone.
Yeah, is he gone? Well, that's a pity to see, you know. Kicked 4 points in the second half, made a real difference.
Directly after the game. Yeah.
When you know, the difference he made coming into the second half, he was always a threat. He took the game by the scruff of the neck early in the second half. You know, I think there were, 5 points down at half time. He kicks 2 early scores, you know. So for someone like that, if he had been fit from the start, maybe the complexion of the game would have changed. But look, as Aaron said, Cavan are they're finding a way to do things. But John, there are worrying signs there for them.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, Kevin. In fairness, yeah, definitely the first 20, 25 minutes was very encouraging, but I just don't know what it is. Sometimes we just, I think the brains just switch off. But they supposed to that kind of defending, like I've got a lot of tweets and messages saying worried about kind of Cavan's defending, even though Jace McLaughlin did do very well, he caught a lot of ball out the field. But I think Porrick Faulkner and Killian Brady at times did struggle against that Sligo attack, Kev. So look, Westmeath, John Heslin, Luke Loughlin, as I said to Conor McKenzie today, we will not get away with that against them.
Absolutely not. And, again, not to harp back, but if we look 2 years ago or 3 years ago, the great thing about that Cavan team was their work rate, their structure, their setup. That is not visible at the minute. As I say, for any team, no matter what level of intercounty football you're at, to concede 4 goal chances, you have to ask about the structure. You have to ask, is there a sweeper in there? Then what's the sweeper doing? You have to ask about the man marking and the matchups. You have to ask all them questions. And, they are worrying signs. And look, we'll come on to talk about Heston in a minute, but some of the scores he scored yesterday were just outrageous. And you know what? Yeah. For me, Cavan can't mark him one-on-one. They're going to have a zonal defence with him and Loughlin.
Conor might hopefully be fit, yeah.
Yeah, so a couple of them guys. So, there are worrying signs for that defence. The other thing I'd have to say is that when we talk about defences, and we're going to come on to talk about Armagh in particular this weekend, which is the main defence that I want to talk about when we come to the rest of the games. But if we look in the first in the Cavan Sligo game yesterday, there was 35 scores. And then if we go on the flip side of that to the Offaly Westmeath game, there was 43 scores. Now, let's be honest, there'd be 60 odd scores in Croke Park over 2 games, and any you think it was hurling. So obviously the quality's a wee bit lower. Obviously the structures aren't right there, but Cavan are really going to have to look at how they set up defensively to combat Westmeath coming forward.
Yeah, I suppose the good thing is as well, Kev, to do 2 or 3 weeks now to kind of, get rid of any kind of nonsense or prepare, accordingly for the Westmeath game. So hopefully they can absolutely do that. And I suppose, definitely it was a good kind of Cavan performance, probably from a Sligo point of view, as you're rightly saying. If some goal chances did go in, it could have been a completely different game. But obviously they didn't. But Sligo will come away from that game loads to build on. I know Niall Murphy's packed his bags, Kev. But look, Sligo, hopefully they can build bridges from that game.
Yeah, I think Aaron's articulated very well. Look, when Tony McEntee looks at this season, and let's, before we come on, I was thinking about this today. This has been a particularly difficult season for Sligo in many different aspects. Obviously, they didn't start the season well. Obviously, we had the tragic news with Red Oak Murphy. Then they obviously have to go out to New York for the first round in the championship. They got to this stage. Let's not remember, with what I would call 2 mediocre performances to beat both London and Leitrim in extra time, and was it one of them penalties as well. So look, steadily as the year has gone on, even though they've had a lot of knocks and psychological and emotional issues, I think there is progress under McEntee. And I think that Aaron's beautifully articulated that, look, I think they need to forget about everything and maybe concentrate on Division 4 next year. Didn't really start Division 4 well this year, but I think getting out of it's a must. We'll see where it's brought Cavan now. And certainly, I think that there is a good body of research over the last 10 years to say that if you improve your league form and you get up to better leagues and you're playing more competitive games, your championship form generally does improve. So, that will be the next task for them. Will McEntee stay around for that long? That's another discussion to be had. But I certainly think there is some progress there. And, we all talk about sport being a game of inches. Yesterday, there could have been a totally different complexion on the match if they had 1 or 2 chances had to get in, and possibly Murphy starts the game. So, there is bright shoots for them.
Absolutely, but just something that sprung to my mind there, obviously, when you were talking about the late great Red Oak Murphy. We can't go any further, lads. I don't know how to skip my mind, but just at the start of the podcast, our sincere condolences go out to all in Tyrone GA with the sudden passing of Damian Casey. He hurled for the Owen Rui club in Tyrone, and obviously there's been loads of tributes. He sadly passed away, I think, Friday, and our thoughts and prayers go out to the family, the friends, and the club members, and all that's involved in Tyrone GA. Aaron, obviously tragic news.
Yeah, you couldn't believe the news, obviously, when it come through on Saturday morning. Like when you're waking up and you're seeing the notifications coming in, like it's just tragic, really. You can't really, like, it's very hard to sort of, talk about it really, because like it does seem like every couple of weeks, you hear these bad news and all these stories coming in, and it's so tragic really, because obviously, he's away on a holiday. It's a swimming accident. I was listening to our game earlier this morning, and one of Damian Casey's club mates was on the show, and fair play to him, like to be going on a show to talk about, Damian Casey and what he's achieved, obviously what kind of man he is, what kind of human he is, all the rest, like, and what kind of club man he is, to be speaking about that so sudden after his death, really, really commendable. But you couldn't believe it really, and it's just it's tragic really. And thoughts go out to his family, his friends, and everyone connected with Tyrone GAA and the own Real Club.
Kevy, what about yourself?
Yeah, I'd echo everything that Aaron said. Obviously, as somebody that's played hurling here in Ulster, the name Damian Casey and Tyrone, hurling is synonymous. We've all read the tributes in the articles this week, so I'm not here to repeat them. But again, his championship record is phenomenal. His club record's phenomenal. A fine hurler, would have made any Ulster Railway Cup team if it was still about at any time. And by all accounts, I think my younger brother Connor was lucky enough to hurl with him this last couple of years for Tyrone. A great guy as well, a great leader. And I think when we looked last night at the vigil that was had, the outpouring of grief from the clubs around as well in Tyrone. But can I just say, John, as well, that it's a desperate tragedy, terrible to happen. But the support, I'm sure the support of people in Tyrone GAA and the support of the wider GAA community in Tyrone is there for all to see. And it just makes us very, very hopeful about this great association that we're all proud to be part of. In Dungannon, so our thoughts and prayers are with them.
100%, and obviously I was reading the Belfast Telegraph earlier on, and I just seen a nice quote. Speaking to BBC Radio Ulster Monday, his Dungannon hurling club chairman Tony Donnelly said that Damian Casey would have been justified for walking with his head in the clouds for everything that he's achieved, but he's the most humble lad that I know. If you had to write a list of your 5 favourite people, even before all of this happened, Damian would have been on top of that list. I was speaking to a couple of people over the last week before this tragedy happened, and Damian was topic of conversation. So heartbreaking stuff, lads, and it's obviously great that the football is a distraction, but it kind of brings you back down to earth. But there you go. Our thoughts and prayers go out to all in Tyrone GAA. Damian Casey, God be good to you. And in the other Tall Cup semi-final in Croke Park, lads, it was Westmeath 3-22, Offaly 2-16. Kev, a massive scoreline. Westmeath looked absolutely brilliant. John Heslin getting man of the match. Awfully huffed and puffed. They just didn't get over the line. Westmeath move on to the Tall Cup final against Cavan in a couple of weeks' time. I think Kevy might connect. Aaron, if you want to jump on that, if you're right. Yeah. I think you're on mute, buddy. So we're like RD. We're having technical difficulties. Fire away, my man. Go ahead.
Yeah. I don't know. Look, it was a great performance by Westmeath. Look, it was one of their best performances we've seen from them in a while. But it's nothing new really to Westmeath and Jack Cooney's men. Like, I remember watching them against Cork last year in that relegation playoff, and they played some brilliant football. I remember I think they kicked like 2-14 or something in the opening 25 minutes. It was extremely attacking. It was fluent. And they have a lot of very, very good players. Like Ronan O'Toole's a player I've been banging on about for last couple of years. Very skillful on the ball, brilliant ball carrier. I suppose maybe what Westmeath fans have said is, maybe he needs to bulk up a little bit more. But you're seeing like he's kicked 5 points there, and that's a huge output from himself. Sam McCarthy's had a great year. He's been one of the more consistent Westmeath footballers. He kicked 3. Luke Loughlin's come back into the fold this year with 2 points. Everyone knows the quality, obviously, of John Heslin as well. So it was really, really enjoyable from Westmeath. Like, when you were watching that game, you were entertained for the full 70 minutes. And I suppose the issue with Westmeath that I've had, and it's probably nearly similar with yourself, John, as a Cavan fan. Like, there is a lot of inconsistencies there, and there's some good performances, there's some not so good performances. Like when they played Laois earlier on in the Tailteann Cup, they went down to 14 men. They struggled. They sort of limped through that game in the end. Laois were coming in on the back of an absolute hammer into Wicklow in the Leinster Championship. So, And defensively as well, like we were mentioning, maybe some of the defensive issues that Cavan have, and that's fair enough. But like Westmeath conceded 2-16, and I don't think Offaly were anywhere near at their best, and probably could have kicked more. I know they got a goal at the end that maybe made the scoreline a little bit more, respectable or so. But yeah, look, all in all, very, very good performance from Westmeath, and I mean, you might be worried in the final, John.
Yeah, now this is one you can get me worried about. This is one you can definitely get me worried about, because I was honestly really impressed by Westmeath. I think they were absolutely brilliant, Aaron, and geez, like, full credit for the victory. And what impressed me most about them, obviously, John Heston moving really well inside. Luke Loughlin's finally got his start in jersey. He's taken with both hands. So, and I know I was watching video clips of Haslam, rolling back the years, kicking some absolute spinners in Croke Park yesterday again, Aaron, and the man's absolutely timeless.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, I think the thing that impressed me the most about them is just the way they move the ball. Like, they move it so quickly and so fluently when they're playing like that. And they haven't played too much like that this year. Like, I remember at the start of the year when I was on your own podcast and even on my own as well, like when we're sort of predicting things, and I had Westmeath as a showing really to get them over from Division 3, because some of the football that, like, let's not forget, they nearly beat Mayo and Meath last year in Division 2. Like, they were very, very close. So they seem to be caught between being a defensive side and being an attacking side. And you can understand why they do go a bit more defensive at times, because you're conceding 2-16 against Offaly. When you're playing like that, you're not going to play like that against a Dublin or anything like that. We've seen Westmeath get hammered in 16-17 when they played the Dubs, playing a similar brand of football. So yeah, and as you said with John Heslin, I mean, he's probably, I was speaking to Conor McKenna, mutual friend, earlier, and he said he's probably Westmeath's best ever footballer. And, I think between himself and
Desi Dolan,
yeah, definitely in the conversation. But when you think about it, like Heslin, Dolan probably played in a much better team as opposed to Heslin, and, give or take. And Heslin's sort of been, there for quite a while, like last 10 years or so. So, yeah, very good performance from him, kicked 7 points. And, yeah, it'd be interesting to see like who picks. Who do you reckon will pick him up in the final?
Yeah, I suppose that's probably the $1 million question. Like, and I suppose I was saying to Kev a couple of minutes ago that I think with that particular matchup, I think yesterday, I think we probably maybe underestimate how good Sligo were moving the ball forward. So I just think that matchup will be absolutely key, because we know how good Heslin is. We've seen him in full flow. Yes, so we've seen him full flow for the last 10 years plus at this stage for the Westmeath lads. So look, you're probably looking at this, the old reliable Pork Faulkner maybe to pick up Heslin. I think that'll be the most obvious candidate. But I think Faulkner, I think he'll have to be top of the pops against John Heslin, because I think yesterday's performance, he found it tough enough in Croke Park. So I think it'll be Pork Faulkner to pick him up. But look, it'll be a stiff test. But no, I think the Westmeath lads, I was very impressed with them. Yes, and obviously I think even when Offaly did kind of get a couple of goals and got a couple of chances, maybe Westmeath did kind of switch off to a degree. But and like, do you feel maybe, I know there's kind of murmurs and talks, and obviously don't believe everything you read, I suppose, but John Maughan, like, do you feel his journey's ending with Offaly as well, Aaron? And what's your heard from that?
Yeah, like I seen the quote on, I think he was speaking to Midlands FM, and I think he was saying that he's not sure whether he will stay on. Like, it's an interesting one. He's been there 5 years, and like, to be honest with you, I didn't think he'd be with Offaly for this long. Like, I think when he came in, it was only supposed to be a 2-year term, and it's gone on to 5 years. And like, he's been involved with like inter-county management for such a long time. I mean, he was a manager of Clare back in the mid-90s, probably when we weren't even born. You know what I mean? And winning Munster titles, like, so yeah, you wouldn't be, like, to be fair, he could stick around, and I think Offaly fans would be very happy if he did stick around. But I can't remember his name off the top of my head now, but the under-20 manager who won the All-Ireland with Offaly last year, like, he might be a good shout to come in. Like, he'd know a lot of those under-20 lads, likes of Keith O'Neill and Jack Bryant, Cormac Egan. So might be a bad shoe-in, but sure, look, I suppose we'll see obviously in the next couple of weeks what happens there.
Definitely. I suppose Westmeath's kind of performance as well, Aaron, like, it probably really was top of the pops. I think they really went to town on Offaly. We maybe expected the game to be a bit closer, but like, obviously the end result, did you expect Westmeath to kind of coast on to victory, or could you see Offaly kind of giving themselves a better account? Because obviously, it is local derby, and God, it didn't feel like that at times, Aaron.
Yeah, I suppose just to clarify there, it was Declan Kelly, the Offaly under 20.
Kelly, yeah,
Offaly under 20 manager that I was speaking about there. But yeah, look, I mean, you've seen obviously like the highlight on the Sunday game like quite a bit last night, and I suppose the energy and enthusiasm probably wasn't quite there from Offaly. Obviously, aside, not used to playing in Croke Park. Westmeath probably a lot more familiar with Croke Park down the years. And he's seen as well, like they were pushing up on Westmeath's kickouts, but they were leaving far too much space in behind. It was way too easy for Westmeath to get up the field, and especially with the way they were playing and the mood that they were in. I really felt that like Offaly would be a little bit more defensive, like they get a lot more men behind the ball, because like when you look at the quality of Westmeath's forwards, like especially in this kind of a game, in terms of Heslin, O'Toole, Loughlin, Ray Canellan from midfield as well. Like I really thought they would be a lot more, just keep a lot more men behind the ball and try and sort of, force Westmeath to kick outside of scoring zones. But no, yeah, like I suppose, look, at the end of the day, it's probably another one of them things as well where they have played a lot of games this year, between the league, the championship, and obviously the Tailteann Cup as well. A couple of injuries. Niall Darby, Keane Farrell's out as well. So
during the week, yeah.
Yeah, Niall Darby obviously I think he tore his ACL, so he's going to be. I think he might actually have retired from.
I think he might. Yeah, he said that could be his final game. Yeah, or it could be. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. Look, room for optimism. I think them going into Division 3 next year might. I think they'll be up there. They'll be thereabouts. They've plenty of good lads coming through.
Some under 20s are good. Yeah.
See if they can kick on from here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. On the go to the on Westmeath go to the Tailteann Cup's final line a couple of weeks against Cavan. It'll be a great game, and I think it'll be go down to the wire. It'll be real 50-50, and we're looking forward to it. But Tailteann Cup seems to be working so far, Aaron. And what's your take on that? Like, are you all in now with this kind of Tailteann Cup? Obviously, we've seen some very good games in the recent weeks, Aaron. So, what are we thinking?
Yeah, like I think it has been very entertaining. Like, I mean, obviously, as Kev was saying earlier, like the quality probably isn't there in terms of skill level, in terms of what you'd maybe see in an All-Ireland semi-finals or quarterfinals. But look, it's been brilliant entertainment. Like there hasn't been, like when you look at the scores of a lot of games, like you're getting high-scoring games, and I think as neutrals, really, that's what we want. Like a lot of the time, like fair enough, maybe you want high quality and you want to see the best scores, but sometimes you just want to be entertained, and I think you've seen that a lot of the time with the Tailteann Cup. And in fairness, they have promoted it very well. Like I thought, we obviously give the Sunday game quite a lot of stick from time to time, but in fairness to them, they did a good job. Like I think bringing in like Keith Byrne, Enda McGinley, these lads, like
that was brilliant.
We remember we were even saying that like they should bring in more players from those kind of teams. They'd be more familiar.
Common sense, Aaron. Just you know
what I mean? Like so they finally got there. Fair play to them.
They must be listening.
They must be listening. But yeah. The King's back.
Yeah. Oh, easy. Oh, God. Kev, we thought we lost you. You all right?
Yeah, sorry. Just a bit of a technical glitch. My apologies, John.
No worries, my man. It is good to see that face again. My heart was throbbing there. Holy God, it's worrying. We'll move on to this weekend's action, lads. I'll just read out the Tailteann Cup team of the week. It was Aidan Devaney, Jack Smith, Kevin Maguire, Jason McLaughlin, Oisin Kieran, Dara Cummins, Jamie Ganood, Pat Spillane, not from Kerry, from Sligo. There we go. He had a great game by all accounts. Sam McCartan, half forward line, Ronan O'Toole, Garrod McCarran, and Jared Smith. Full forward line, Dylan Hyland, John Heslin and Lorcan Dolan. And the nominations for the player of the week is John Heslin, Garrod McCarran and Pat Spillane. And Kevin, you're a massive Kerry fan. What's it like to see Pat Spillane Jr. play for Sligo?
Yeah, it's a bit weird, but I mean, I suppose he's been playing football for St Jude's for a while, and Aaron would probably have seen him in the Dublin Championship once or twice. Here he had a very good year in the Dublin Championship. So, I mean, he's gone and playing. He's getting a game every week for Sligo, and he's obviously added to their team. I was quite impressed with him actually, and
he was brilliant,
and his energy levels, and at a time when maybe Sligo weren't really getting going at the start of the game, the first 15 minutes, he was the one standout player that was the driving force behind them. So I was quite impressed by him. Again, Garrod McCarran maybe gets a nomination because alongside Smith, as you pointed out. He was probably the standout player for Cavan again, standing up at certain times when he was right. But for me, there isn't another player in this competition like John Heston. I know I've been on about him on this podcast before, but look, I've had the honour of playing with him, playing alongside him for UCD, played in the middle of the park with him. You know, guy's an absolute genius of a footballer. He is a brilliant shooter. He can play at full forward. He has the ability to play at centre half forward. He can play around the middle of the park. You know, this guy could hold his own in any team in the country. And, you know, he's just coming into his prime now. That's a scary thing about him.
What age is he, Kev?
John, I think he's maybe 24, 25 max.
John Heston's older than that, Kevy.
No, I don't think he is. I don't think he is. So, you know, maybe he's a wee bit older. Yeah, sorry, maybe he is a bit older. That was 2012, 13 when I was playing with him. So, I mean, a guy with a lot of quality, great feet. As I say, can bring other people into the game. 29. So, sorry, a wee bit out. I was giving him a bit of credit there.
I love the way he skipped the dancing. Was he bad at the dancing?
He was good in Coppers on a Tuesday and a Wednesday night, but that was back in his younger days, you know. But look, he's a phenomenal talent. Westmeath are sort of building a team around him, and he is by far the standout player in this competition. So, you know, moving forward, obviously, he'll be the one person I would think that you know, Mickey Graham will be concentrating a lot of his game planned around. Okay, he's got great foils, and Luke Laughlin, young Dolan there stepped up to the mark as well at the weekend, and I think he knocked 2-1 as well. So, you know, that sort of inside trio will be causing Mickey Graham and Ryan McMenamin some sleepless nights over the next 2-3 weeks, and they'll have to come up with a plan for it. But yeah, great to see Heston. I don't think anybody's in any doubt that he probably is the standout player this week in that particular competition. Not it. Again, he's a great free taker. You know, very deadly accurate, and some of his points for play were just majestic.
Unbelievable. He's a Royals Royce. He's an absolute. He's a savage player. Just to keep that going, and he's on the bounce. He's what, 2012, 11. Kev, is it senior level?
Yeah, well, I remember when he first came to UCD, Malachy O'Rourke, who's from Drummond, be a cousin of Aidan O'Rourke's, not the Malachy former manager, was managing us. He's a lecturer in UCD, and you know, when I first went there, himself and the late great Dave Billings, God rest him, they just told me about this young lad from Westmeath and how good he was. And you know, the first time I seen him, he was a fresher, but he was fearless, absolutely fearless. You know, I think he maybe played inter-county football when he was 18, 19 years of age. So that shows you how long he's been around. You know, and he's been the backbone and that heartbeat of that Westmeath team, who probably outside of Kildare, arguably have been the one team in albeit a very Dublin-dominated Leinster that have maybe, you know, have made a few Leinster finals in that period of time.
Absolutely. No, he's a credit. And I was talking, Aaron, obviously just before you got cut off there, but any kind of thoughts on the Offaly Westmeath game? Very high scoring, and I suppose John Mahan and Tomás O'Shea, more probably questions than answers. But look, a big enough display in Croke Park.
Look, I don't want to prolong the conversation in any way on this match. It was a dire game of football in West because simply of Offaly's tactics. I was reading, and I read widely on a Monday at lunchtime, and I read 3 or 4 different articles. And one of them today was telling, again, a stat I didn't pick up, so credit to the journalist that wrote this. The first time that Westmeath had to go long with a kick out was in the 65th minute. Explain that. You know, if you're playing a defensive system and you're conceding the amount that they conceded, you know, absolutely ridiculous. So, you know, for me, Offaly's tactics were all wrong. They didn't get it right from the start. Westmeath got it far too easy. There was no intensity to the game. There was no real defensive structure at all from Offaly. If you actually look at 4 or 5 of the Westmeath scores, it's a long kick in, you know, unchallenged in many ways. When Heston's hitting 3 or 4, again, another stat I picked up from another journalist, 11, there was no wides in the second half by Westmeath, who were playing against the breeze. So, you know, that tells you something about the defence that they had. I think Westmeath scored 11 points. Tells you something about Offaly's defence. no defender hanging out of Heston, no defender hanging out of Dolan or Luke Loughlin when they're having shots, so a lot to soul search for Offaly. It seems to me 2 steps forward for them, with a great young bunch of players coming up who did so well last year, brought pride to the county in the under-20s and what they achieved there. Yet then this year, yes, they were unlucky to go down, but realistically, they would have been targeting this competition to get back into SAM next year, and it hasn't happened. And I was just saying into the group earlier on, I think after that defeat and the manner of the defeat and the ability that they have, I think the Offaly County Board will be ruthless now, and they'll maybe cut ties with John Mahon because they have a good young bunch of lads coming up, and really they need next season to be a big season for them. Down in Division 3, remember, you've got Fermanagh in there, you've got Down in there, you've of course got Westmeath in there. So it's going to be a really competitive league next year, and Offaly are going to find it quite tight to get out of there. So maybe a bit of new direction from a new management might be just what's needed for them right now.
I think Niall Darby seems to be gone. Niall McNamee, lads, do you reckon he'll stick about? Hard to know.
Yeah, it's a hard one to know. I mean, how many years is he at it now? Like he's
20, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. Like you could have asked that question last year, and we probably would have said, he probably won't, and then he does. It's a bit like Ross Munnelly of Laois. You think these lads are almost, they're not human in many ways, like to keep going. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I mean, the fact they got relegated, they're going back down to Division 3. But at the same time, there's the opportunity to end it on a high. Like if, let's say, Offaly, claim promotion from Division 3, it sort of ends it on a high back up to Division 2. But at the same time, as Kev's saying there, like there's plenty of young lads coming through there from the under 20s. Maybe it's time to get them into the team and give them
freshen it up.
Do you know what I mean?
Anton Sullivan's brilliant too, yes. Yeah.
The only things I would say about that is, Aaron, as a manager, you're maybe looking at the balance. McNamee and what he has in that 20 years experience, every kid playing that team has looked up to him at some time. When the balancing act of, do you bring him in as well as a coaching role or something like that, because you don't want him taking away a place from a young lad who's eager and chopping at the bed or whatever else, but also you want that bit of experience knocking around as well, and it's a hard balancing act. Personally, I think Aaron hit the nail on the head. Being relegated and then obviously not winning this competition really is, I think it's a line in the sand for Offaly GA. Maybe just to go with the young guns, get a new manager in and head on from there.
Yeah, I think an announcement is probably coming, lads, I would imagine, because I think John Mahon was fairly sure that he'd be going, but it'll be interesting to see. Does Tomas Roche stay part of the coaching ticket for Offaly's future? But we'll move on to the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship quarter-finals, lads. It's getting very exciting. About time, probably, Kevy, as you say, the Football Championship. I'm looking forward to your rant now, a couple of minutes without. But on Saturday, lads, in the quarter-finals of the Championship, you have Dublin against Cork in Croke Park at 6 p.m. on Sky Sports, and Derry v Clare, Croke Park, 3:45 on Sky. So nice wee double header this Saturday night. Kevin McCarthy, Derry v Clare, Croke Park. Who would have thought this was going to happen?
Well, Clare, they're a merit. We've all praised the job Colin Collins has done time and time again, and we have to do that again. The character that they showed the last day against Roscommon was phenomenal. Again, good back-to-back leagues over the last 2, 3, 4 seasons. Seeing them play that higher quality of football, something I was talking there about Sligo maybe need to aim for. And Clare certainly benefited from that. Yes, the old championship isn't great for them because obviously the Cork, but mainly the Kerry issue down in Munster. But the back door suits Clare. They can always bring a surprise. I remember they came to Casement Park when I was playing for Antrim, maybe in around 2011. And I've been in the Ulster final maybe 2 years before that. Nobody gave them a hope, and they absolutely blew us out of the water. So, the ability to do that, spring an upset. What I would think is they might find quite hard is to break the Derry defence down. There was common defences nowhere as sophisticated or as structured as the Derry defence will be. When we look at Sexton, when we look at, maybe David Tuberty coming off the bench or where he starts or not this day out, even Podge Collins, when we look at what Derry have in defence in terms of the top quality cornerbacks and full back line that they have, You know, you would expect Derry to keep them, you know, quite honest at the back, and then to hit them on the break. Derry played them earlier on in the league. I think the game was down in Cusack Park. Derry won that day, you know, and they won quite comfortably, which could have been a bit of a banana skin for them. Again, Derry are going back inside Croke Park for the first time in quite a wee while, John, in terms of this level of competition. What I mean by that is a quarterfinal of an All Ireland. You know,
yeah,
they'll be fancying their chances as much as anybody else. Personally, I think Derry win the All Ireland this year. No, I don't. I don't think they have the personnel, and they're just not ready yet. They might need another year or two, but can they make a final? Absolutely. And I think, you know, having seen the draw, you know, they'll be fancy. They'll have their ears pricked. They'll be ready to go for this. I think the one thing that Derry have, probably bar Dublin and Kerry, of all the teams left, is they have a brilliant structure. Every man knows his role within the team. You know, they've got great defenders. Traditionally, Derry always did, but they do have good defenders that can hold top-class forwards. And, you know, I do think that they'll get over the line in this game. And that's no disrespect to Clare. You know, I think Clare have good players up front in Saxon Tubridy, who are scoring regularly for them. Podge is very, very industrious when he gets the ball, as we've seen last day out, and can score as well. You know, and as I say, they show great character to come from behind against Roscommon. But I think Derry's just a step too far for Clare, and I think that they have the defense. Derry have the defensive structure to swallow Clare up, and I certainly think that they have the personnel up front to hit them on the break and hurt Clare. So I'd fully expect Derry to be winning this game.
Yourself, Aaron, obviously you were kind of tipping Clare earlier for the crack of the group chat, but obviously I think you're probably having a laugh, but who knows? It's not beyond them.
Yeah, look, I would give them a good chance, to be fair. Like, I really would. Like, when you look at the form of Keelan Sexton, like, he obviously kicks 2-6 the last day against Roscommon. Like, I'd give them a good opportunity, to be fair. Like, they showed some amount of fight, you know, against Roscommon. It'd be interesting to see, actually, as well, like, how Derry set up. Like, I know, obviously, Kev's saying there, like, and from what we've seen of Derry this year, like, they have been, obviously, overly defensive. It's Jim McGuinness 2.0 in many ways, and obviously, you're getting, you know, the likes of your Brendan Rodgers, Garrett McKinless is kind of venturing forward. They're kicking a lot of the scores a lot of the time. But like, are they going to play that same way against Clare? Do you know, and that's not to disrespect Clare. Like fair play, they've done an amazing job. But you know, like, could they be a little bit more? Like, that's why I think it's a bit of an awkward game for Derry in some respects, because you know, like, they're not going to venture out of what they haven't done this year too much, because obviously it's got them this far and it's got them the success of winning an Ulster title. But at the same time, like, you know, it might be a bit of an awkward game, because, you know, you seen Clare when they played Roscommon as well. Like, they were quite defensive, and you know, they were trying to pick Roscommon, you know, away in the counter attack, and got a lot of success really in the first half from that. Like, that's where the Sexton goal comes from. So, you know, like, I think this will be a bit of a cagey game, to be honest. You know, it's two sides that are not used to playing in Croke Park. There's a lot on the line, an All-Ireland semi-final. I don't think it would be a great game, to be honest, in terms of it being a spectacle. You know, I think
Clare play a nice brand, Aaron, do you think?
I think they do at times. Like, I think they, you know, they attack on the counter attack quite well. But I think a lot of the time, like against Roscommon, they had a lot of men behind the ball, and they were breaking, you know, they were looking for that outlet. They were looking for runs of Cathal O'Connor, playing a bit of a running game in many ways. So now, look, obviously they played that way against Roscommon. You know, when they're going through, when they're playing your likes of your Limericks in Munster, they've, you know, a lot more attacking, and they've been caught out a couple of times. But yeah, it'd be interesting. But I could see Clare mirroring Derry a little bit, a bit like what Donegal done. To be honest with you, Donegal nearly got a bit of success from it. So. I don't think Clare, I think it'd be very naive of them to just, you know, be attacking Derry and leaving themselves exposed at the back. So they'll get killed. So that's why you would, like, Derry have the better forwards, they've more quality, the better midfield. Although I do think, you know, Cathal O'Connor, Darren O'Neill around the middle, like, two very, very good midfielders for Clare. Like, so no, I'd give Clare a fair chance, but you would look at Derry's forwards, and given the fact that you know, they beat 3 Division 1 sides, 3 of the best teams in the country. Like, you would have to fancy Derry. Like, you'd be mad not to, you know.
So you'd be going for Derry in that game, but obviously I think Clare will give them the full of it, especially after the performance against such common. I think the Clare lads gave a great account of themselves. Oh, here we go, Aaron. This is what's going to get you excited, my man. Dublin against Cork, Croke Park, 6 p.m. All Ireland quarter final. Oh, you'll head into that no doubt, my man. What's the thoughts ahead of this one?
100%, yeah. No, be out the Derry and Clare game as well. You know, get in there
that second half.
An L warm up, yeah. Get in for the second half. Get in for the final 10 minutes.
€10 for a pint.
Maybe extra time. Maybe you'll be drinking during the whole way through Clare and Derry. But no,
I've always kind of thought. Sorry, just on a side note, I've always kind of thought like if there's a couple of games on at Croke Park and you didn't enjoy them, and now do you know there's so many screens beside like the boozers and the restaurants just in the turnstile or just around the back. It's a great job, point or two, and settling nerves before like a minor game before a big senior game. Aaron, it's a great job.
Yeah, no, it's handy. It's just a shame it's so expensive. I mean, Jesus, like you'd be fleeced. Do you know what I mean? Like imagine you drunk, you know, you were drinking 6 or 7 pints in there. You know, you're getting close to a week's wages, like 60, 70 quid for and then on top of 40 quid for the game as well. It's crazy. But now looking, you know, obviously looking forward to the game. Like I mean, it's been very good watching us in the Leinster Championship. I've obviously had a lot of, I was literally just about to say the league was not so enjoyable.
I thought Dublin were gone. I thought the way you were going on during the league, I thought this is the end of Dublin. We'll never see them again.
and I, to be honest, I do still have reservations. Now, I don't think we're gone. I think that was probably, you know, I think as a fan, sometimes you can be a bit too emotional with your own team, your own county, especially when they're not doing well. You can kind of, you know, throw your toys out of the pram a little bit, so to speak. But there's still some reservations there. We're obviously not going to learn that in this game, though. I think realistically speaking, I do think this will be a very comfortable game. Like I know, like fair play to Cork for getting into the quarterfinals. You know, a big achievement for them. But realistically, even in the wins against both Limerick and Louth, I wasn't too impressed with them, to be honest. I think they've got a very good forward in Stephen Sherlock. They work hard, and since John Cleary's come in, they're covering a lot of yards. They're working very hard as a team. They're pulling through and they're getting wins on the board. But you know, that was against Louth or Limerick. Do you know what I mean? Like if this was Dublin against Limerick, people, you know, we've seen what happened to Limerick against Kerry. They were beaten by 23 points. So I do think it'll be very comfortable for Dublin. Let's be perfectly honest. You know, those we've seen Cork's defence throughout the league get cut open time and time again. We've seen Limerick do it against them. You know, what are Dean Rock, Con O'Callaghan, Cormac Costello, Kieran Kilkenny? Like they'll have a field day, really. Yeah. What you would say though is with Cork and maybe what we didn't see from Meath and maybe a little bit from Kildare. I do think we've seen a lot of fight and heart from Kildare throughout the entirety of the year, but I do think the Cork lads will, you know, they'll work hard. They'll try stay in the game for as long as possible. Maybe there might be a few good moments in there from Cork, but I just think you're looking at Dublin. They've just way too much firepower.
Yeah, like I suppose that's kind of like a point on it as well. Like it obviously is a good like opportunity for Dublin to stretch their legs, get into Croke Park again, and you know we could be looking at a bit of a hammering on Saturday night once again. Like, but like, is there any kind of preparation you can use from this Cork game? Because obviously I know Cork will try to stick with them, but like we know what the score is going to be at the end of the day, barring some absolute calamity from Dublin. Like, is there any advantages Dublin can use from this game? I don't know, get the forwards moving again. You know, put on a display, get the likes of Conor Callan, Dean Rock, get minutes into their legs, and you know, is there anything they can use? Essentially, what I'm saying to you is preparation for the semi-finals, the finals, the home stretches.
Yeah, they just need to keep the same intensity up, I think, in my opinion, because I think when you watched the championship last year, like the intensity wasn't there through Leinster. They came through Leinster quite comfortably, but they weren't at their brilliant best. You know, you remember the second half versus Meath, they completely switched off. You know, it was brought down to a 3-point game at one point going into the final couple of minutes. Even against Wexford the game before, just the passing was poor, the intensity wasn't there, a lot of players not in form. Whereas this year, it has been very high octane and it has been, you know, like very similar to almost watching Dublin in Jim Gavin in sort of 2013, 2014, when we'd beat a lot of teams in Leinster playing brilliant, attractive football and kicking inside into Con O'Callaghan and, you know, Kieran Kilkenny doing a lot of his work in around the half forward line. So, I'm not going to compare this team to the Jim Gavin side, because the Jim Gavin teams never got relegated from Division 1. And I do still think there's a lot of question marks over the defence. It mightn't be I would like this game to maybe go a little bit like the Dublin and Cork game in 2019, where Dublin were Super 8 game. They were tested for large parts. Cork actually played very well that day. Now, they're a completely different team to now, actually. I think I read that only 3 players who played that day for Cork are in line to play in this one. So that goes to show how big of a turnover for Cork football. But something like that, where they're tested a little bit, but they still come through, obviously, because you don't want us to lose, obviously. I mean, that would be an absolute catastrophe. So maybe a little bit of a test here and there, but realistically, like as I put out on Twitter, probably is the worst draw possible for Dublin, in my opinion, because the winner of Kerry Mayo is going to be going up with a huge amount of confidence, and then Dublin going in without a test, it might just stand to a Kerry or Mayo or whoever comes through that one.
But then again, we know the power of Dublin. They'll kind of reset Aaron, so
the
quality. So
rule them out either.
Cork, Aaron, look, I probably said to you a few weeks ago, like, they're back where they should be. The population, the size, we're probably blue in the face talking, repeating ourselves, but now they are back where they should be. I know maybe the quality of players might not be there to, get to the latter ends of competitions these days, but look, is there, I suppose the only thing you can nearly say is the best they can probably hope for maybe is try stick with Dublin for the maybe 40-50 minutes. I think that would probably be an achievement itself, especially in Croke Park against Dublin, Aaron. So I know Brian Hurley, Stephen Sherlock, can they cause Dublin any headaches this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose from Cork, I mean, when they played Kerry, they had a lot of men behind the ball, and they kept Kerry at arm's length, and they were very competitive for about 40 odd minutes or so, and then fell away towards the end. I think it would be something similar, I think, in this game. I think we've seen Kildare were very naive against the Dubs. They were very open at the back, no real physical challenges coming in, no big tackles. You'd imagine Cork will play differently. Like, they'll have a lot of men behind the ball, and try to keep Dublin out and try and frustrate them in the best way that they can, slow the game down. And then look, you've got good forwards there in Sherlock and Brian Hurley who can do damage. And Sherlock's, in my opinion, up there is one of the best forwards in the country. Like, you've seen some of his points against Kerry, like that dummy where he put it over the bar. So I'd look, that's kind of being optimistic. I think at the same time, if Dublin are on it and they're on the game, even if Cork do sit back, Dublin should find a way around it, because Dublin are so used to playing against blanket defences. We've seen Dublin have these problems before in the past and overcome it. So yeah, look, I suppose as a Cork fan, I think the main thing really is it's a bonus territory. It's a lot further than what they expected. At one stage in Division 2, it was looking like they were going to be relegated in the Tailteann Cup. So, and I think it's a good experience for the Cork players as well to, get a game against Dublin, and it could stand to them going into Division 2 next year.
It could stand to them, but it could
go the other way as well.
It could be a very lonely place now when that full-time whistle blows, but look, we'll wait and see how that goes. And moving on to Sunday's action, Aaron, this is what it's all about. These are the 2 big games coming up in the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship quarter-final. You have Kerry against Mayo in Croke Park at 4 p.m. The game will be live on Atak.ie, and Galway and Armagh in Croke Park at 1:45. They'll be kick-starting today. So God, Aaron, 2 absolutely mouth-watering games to look forward to. God, it's been a while since we had a double header like this, so we're looking forward to it. So we'll touch on to the Galway and Armagh game, Aaron. Armagh on the crest of a wave at the minute. They're absolutely flying. Galway, good Connacht Championship, obviously Connacht champions. Pork Joyce probably delighted with that. He looked to kind of keep progressing, but look, a very hard game to call, Aaron.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very entertaining watching these 2 games. I mean, especially Galway Armagh, I suppose. First of all, it is a hard one to call because, like, it's a weird one with Galway, because I don't think Mayo have been great this year in the championship at all, and Galway narrowly came through that. They obviously get past Roscommon as well. Like, I haven't really been impressed with Galway, to be perfectly honest. Like, I think they've a lot of defensive issues in there. I think Shane Walsh has been excellent. I mean, kicking 1-6 the last day, he was in flying form. Around the midfield, they've been quite good. Obviously, Kearns, they've been very good there. But look, Armagh, they're the side coming in with momentum. big result, obviously, against Donegal. Stephen Campbell, the work he's doing sort of in that half forward line has been excellent. Charlie O'Byrne's very good as well. And I think with Armagh, like in the open spaces, like in Croke Park, I could see them causing a bit of damage to Galway. I really could.
Absolutely. I suppose obviously Armagh's form going into this, and like we've seen them in the last couple of games, has been unbelievable. And I keep saying, obviously, Rian O'Neill, Johnny keeps going on about him. He had a stars to his game the last day out, and he was very good against Tyrone as well, Aaron. So look, they are flying at the minute. They've had 2 great performances. The big thing, the last thing for Armagh was, the win over Tyrone. They backed it up. They got a great win against Donegal. Galway this Sunday. It'll be another stiff test, and who knows, Aaron? They could pass this test. I wouldn't say handy enough, but like it's a very winnable game for them.
For Galway, I think.
For Armagh.
Oh yeah. I think so. I think out of all 4 provincial winners, I think this was the game that they would have wanted. For a minute there, I thought Armagh won the Ulster Championship. I'm getting confused with myself there. But
we done the Ulster final as well.
Yeah, we did. I'm confusing myself there. But out of all 4 provincial winners, I think they wouldn't have wanted to play Dublin or Kerry. They wouldn't have feared them, but I think this was the one that they definitely would have wanted. Like, and yeah, I think as you said with Rian O'Neill, I mean he'd been quiet enough through the championship in the early games. He was kept scoreless, obviously against Donegal the first day out, kicked 4 in the victory over Tyrone, but against Donegal, I mean, he was unbelievable. He was so good. Like, it was one of the best performances I've seen this year, personally. Like, I think he scored 1-7 in total in the game. So he was very, very good. And like with Armagh, they just like whilst Rian O'Neill is one of their best forwards and one of the best players in the country, like they're getting scores from Charlie O'Byrne's. I think has been very underrated. Like, he kicked 3 points. Ethan Rafferty, probably the goalkeeper of the year so far, in my opinion. He makes a couple of errors here and there, but I think he's been very, very good. Like, he used to play as an outfielder. I think he does play as an outfielder.
He does, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, kicking 2 points. I mean, you wouldn't want to... you'd want to be a bit careful, though, at the same time, because we see how quick Galway can move the ball a lot quicker than Donegal. So if he was to be caught, but like it's a huge opportunity for Armagh. Like, they're probably, I don't think Galway travel particularly well, to be perfectly honest. Unless they get to an All-Ireland final. Like, generally down the years, maybe in hurling, but definitely not football, they don't travel particularly brilliant. So it'll be fully packed probably for Armagh fans. They'll definitely have the crowd behind them, which I think was crucial in the Donegal game. And yeah, look, I'd give them a huge opportunity. I probably would fancy them, to be honest.
Yeah, the kind of signs are pointing that direction. But championship football is different gravy, and I suppose Galway, Shane Walsh, Damian Comer, who's the buzzword, always kind of reverts back to them. Aaron, Paul Conroy as well. So look, they'll be looking to them men for this weekend. I know obviously Armagh, no better team to kind of snuff big men out. I think Falker is doing really well at the minute. He's keeping his temperament, and he'll more than likely be on maybe Walsh or Comer this weekend. But them 3 men will need to be on song this weekend, Darren.
Yeah, they will, because I mean we say that Galway do have a couple of issues maybe at the back, and they probably have had a few defensive issues here and there, but going forward, I mean they've been outstanding. Like, I mean, Paul Conroy in around midfield has been an exceptional, playing as an added forward at times. Shane Walsh, as we know, in exceptional form, and the thing with Galway is, like, under Pádraig Joyce, we've always been wondering, like, can they make that step up? Like, can they take that extra step or get to the next level? That's always been the big thing under Pádraig Joyce. It's kind of 2 managers in similar positions, to be honest. Like, it's they're both trying to get their county back to where they believe they should be. And look, having come through Mayo and Roscommon, like, they won't fear Armagh at all as well. Like, they'll go in believing they can win this. And it's going to be interesting to see how it pans out. Like, it's hard to know, like, I could see I could see Armagh definitely, being the aggressor, but at the same time, with Shane Walsh in there for Galway, Matthew Tierney as well, Damian Comer, like, they could cause a lot of problems for that Armagh defence.
What are we thinking?
Oh, it's a tough one. It's a tough one, to be honest. I'll probably go Armagh. I'd back them. I think the momentum that they have coming in from the Donegal game. Yeah, Armagh by 2.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a serious game of football this weekend, and this is the big one. Moving on to Kerry and Mayo in Croke Park, 4 p.m. Not much more you can say, but this, Aaron, it's going to be a rip-roaring affair, no doubt. And obviously, Mayo coming into this game probably a bit undercooked. Some poor enough performances in the last day out against Kildare. Kind of showed very late. Not a great performance against Monaghan either. Kerry haven't been tested this year so far. The litmus test is going to be this Sunday in Croke Park. We're finally going to see them in the massive stadium that is Croke Park, and this is where we'll see if they're the real deal. But Aaron, form goes out the window of this game, all focused towards the Kerry Mayo game.
Yeah, I mean, form does go out the window, but I think at the same time, like we said there with Mayo, I mean, their performance against Kildare, as you said, like it wasn't great at all. Like they're very reliant on their defenders to score more than their forwards, like with Oisin Mullen venturing forward and Paddy Durkin and Owen McLaughlin as well. Like I just don't think they can play that same way against Kerry. Like I just don't think James Horan can be as naive, because we already seen that game, and that was against Kerry in the league where they got absolutely cut to shreds and they left Clifford versus O'Hara inside. So I just don't think they can make that same mistake again. But it's hard to know, because when I listen to a lot of Mayo fans sort of speaking about this game, and like there probably has been a bit of negativity in some ways around the Mayo fan base. That'll definitely change if they win this game. Believe me, that'll definitely flip going into Dublin in the semi-finals. But like they've even even a few of them I've said that I've listened to have even said James Horan. He's great at bringing through the young lads and the young players and all the rest. But tactically, I don't know if it's quite there. They just can't be as naive to play the same way, because if they're pushing Oisin Mullen, Paddy Durkin further up the pitch, like Kerry, as we've seen them, especially since Paddy Tally's come in, a lot quite defensive, and they'll just kill Mayo on the counter attack. And Clifford, Tony Brosnan, Paul Gainey, Jeremy O'Connor around the middle. If it's Jack Barry in there, they'll pick Mayo to shreds. So I think for Mayo, they definitely need to find a bit of balance going into this one, because if they're as reliant on their wing backs and cornerbacks as they have been a lot of the time this year, I think they could be in big trouble, because you'd expect O'Donoghue to come back in, but I don't know if they have the forwards really outside of him and Killian O'Connor.
Yeah, and I suppose as I was kind of saying about Kerry as well, the railroaded obviously Limerick in the Munster final, a handy enough route to it again. And obviously they're going to come up against this Mayo team. We all know about Mayo and Croke Park. Never say die attitude. You still give Mayo a massive chance this Sunday as well. Regardless of the form, just that never say die attitude. But from the Kerry end of things, Aaron, obviously the camp has been very quiet. It always is. And obviously I think David Clifford should be in contention for this Sunday again. He'll be flying fit and out. So that's a huge addition to bring in. But I can't see it being like the league final. I think that was a very wayward performance by Mayo. I think it'll be very, very different. But I suppose on that, what the Mayo need to kind of change from that. Like I know it'll be different, but from that league performance, to bring it into Sunday, because there's no way in hell they're going to do that again this Sunday. Surely not.
Yeah, I think there's a bit more structure around the back. Like they can't be. They were leaving far too much space in front of Clifford as well. Like they were leaving an ocean of space. So like when they were kicking directly into Clifford, it was just him. It was just O'Hara behind them. That was all he had to beat. So like I don't think they should double up on Clifford, obviously, because then you're leaving space. But I just think they should be a bit more structured at the back. Like if Kerry are going to play that same game, which they probably will, that we've seen them play all year, where they don't, they suffocate the space sort of in the scoring zone. They don't allow chances for the opposition forwards. They'll probably do something similar with Mayo. I think Mayo just have to be street smart and clever and not fall into that trap, because like I've heard a lot of Mayo fans say, oh, we should try and do like what Tyrone did against Kerry last year. But like people don't even realize like Kerry are playing very much like that now, where they're very reliant on turnover sort of in the halfback line. So you know, like I think that would be the main thing for Mayo, really, is just be a little bit more, you know, structured around the back. And I think as well, just have their heads glued on, you know, like, because the amount of wayward passes and just silly options and poor misses in front of goal, like, they really need to be at it, because this is real championship stuff now. Like, and if, you know, like, they need to be clicked into gear, is what I would say. And personally, I wouldn't start Aidan O'Shea as well, to be perfectly honest. I know we've criticised him before. You know, I don't think he was particularly great the last day, to be honest. I just think they need something different there. Fergal Boland surely needs to start, I think, as well. Like, he was very good.
Yeah.
When he came off the bench. You know, and you don't want to be singling out certain players or certain individuals, but I just think there's certain changes in that Mayo team that, you know, I think Horan needs to make, you know.
Yeah, I know. And I suppose, like, even on that as well, like, you know, we did kind of watch Mayo closely in the Monaghan game, and, you know, I think both teams are obviously very poor that day, but obviously the Lair performance, like, last 10-15 minutes, like, they're not going to get away with that against Kerry. I think someone is saying maybe if they're a point down, but I think Kerry will have their homework done on that kind of situation. If it does come to that, I think a Mayo start is going to be a good start. It's going to be absolutely badly needed. I think Killian O'Connor, he's been quiet the last couple of games, but he will need to be at top of the pops. I think Ryan O'Donoghue is in contention, but I think Aaron, should Kerry just have enough? Should Kerry just go over the line, because all this hype and all Ireland contenders going to win the All Ireland this year, for us and everyone to start believing in Kerry to get over the line this year, and they really will need to get over the line in this game convincingly, because look, Mayo haven't been great this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. But see, the thing is about Mayo,
but you never know. Yeah,
like even though we're saying here that they do this and they do that or whatever, but at the same time, so Mayo just have this track record of turning up in these games. Like, I remember writing them off in 2017 going into that game against Kerry. I didn't give them a chance whatsoever, and then they ended up turning Kerry over, and then probably should have beaten Dublin in that final as well. So yeah, but as you said, like, with Kerry, like, they need to put down a statement, and this game it's important for Mayo. But I think if Kerry were to come through this and win, let's say by 3-4 points, we'd probably look at it and be like, well, that was probably expected, to be perfectly honest, especially with some of the Mayo injuries. But I think if Kerry were to get beaten, it would just be a bit of a disaster, to be honest, because it's another, like, once again, they're the All-Ireland favourite, the team that a lot of people are expecting about. And then, like, let's say they were to be beat, then they haven't won a big championship game since 2019 when they beat Tyrone, you know, and that's all. Like, I know Clifford's young, and I know they have a lot of young lads in that team, and obviously it's Jack O'Connor's first year back, but the pressure just builds more and more and more, and then it becomes a bit like a Mayo situation, you know what I mean? Like, obviously not as long as the Mayo faithful, but at the same time, the pressure builds, and
like, no All Ireland since 2014, like.
Yeah, and then, you know, who's to say Dublin don't? You know, if Dublin go on to win the All Ireland, that makes them stronger next year as well, and they might click into gear even more.
See, that's why I think Kerry, like, I know
Tyrone might get their act together as well, you know.
100%, like, and I know, like, and I think Tyrone definitely will, but all the young lads coming through. But I think with Kerry, like, I obviously talked to Shane Enright in my podcast, I think around last year, like, and like, it's just All Ireland or nothing to not win one since 2014. That's why I'm kind of saying a statement of intent really is needed this Sunday, because I think, like, if all this hype, all this media attention, I know Kerry don't really buy into it to keep such a quiet camp, but I just think it's absolutely essential that they go out and just, I know it's a big ask because Mayo just have this never say die attitude, but they have to just probably blow Mayo out of the water, because they haven't been good the last couple of games. I know Mayo do kind of peak in these kind of games, but it's we talk about shit or bust or Kerry at this stage, Aaron.
Yeah, like, they have to be at it from the get-go and start fast, because, like, we've seen with Mayo a lot, like, Jesus, like, so many times this year and last year as well. Like, they always start games quite slow, you know, and then they'll leave it to the final 15 to 20 minutes. That's the last thing you'd want to do, because if this game is level going into the final 15 to 10 minutes, I'd probably back Mayo. Yeah. I'd probably back Mayo, to be honest, because they're the side that have that willpower within them to
force to win it, though.
A lot of the time. They probably, but see, like, but at that stage, though, if it was going into 55, 60 minutes, let's say, and it's level, my guessing is they've had some sort of a game plan that's worked up until that point, because it's probably kept Kerry's forwards down. You know, and like O'Connor hasn't really kicked into gear since his injury. Like, you can't be asking too much of him, you know. But if let's say he steps it up big time, maybe Boland comes in. If McLaughlin's fit, like, I don't know who's in there. Like, they wouldn't be too far away, I don't think, to be honest. But I think it'd be more so on a poor Kerry performance. Let's say if Kerry flattered to deceive. Like, I think that's the only way I could see Mayo winning, is if Kerry just aren't at the races, to be honest.
Going to be an enticing game. Mr. David Clifford, Aaron, he's probably worth the admission fee alone, just to go in and see how he's getting on. He's probably one of the best players of our generation at this stage, Aaron, if not the best. You know, he's probably worth a podcast alone.
Yeah, I mean, he's next level, really, isn't he? Like, you run out of verbs to talk about him. I mean, like, the way he moves with the ball, it's very unorthodox, to be honest. Like, his stance on the ball.
Lionel Messi.
I think I've said that loads of times. Like, the way he solos the ball as well. Like, he doesn't slow down as he does it. Do you know what I mean? And that's quite rare. That's the sign of a very, very good player. So yeah, you know, and he's 2-footed as well. I mean, you can tell obviously he's predominantly left-footed, but he can kick on his right as well. That's not a bother to him. And that was even something I remember in the 2019 final, when it was Cooper who marked him the first day. I think it was Mick Fitz who marked him the second day. I think it was. Yeah, and kind of showed him more so on his right. But even at that, he could still kick on his right as well, to be fair. Maybe not, you know, he's definitely improved a lot more on that. So yeah, no, he's an unbelievable talent. And that's the thing with Kerry, is that, like, I think he will step up in this game and he will have a big game. You know, as long as he obviously was injured the last day. So if he, you know, you'd presume he's back fit by now, surely. Anyway, I haven't heard anything otherwise. Sean O'Shea, you know, he had a very big game against Tyrone. But I do think it would be about some of the other lads in there as well, like your Tony Brosnan, Stephen O'Brien, Paul Gainey. Because against Tyrone, like, realistically, you know, like, it was just Clifford and O'Shea out of their forwards who stood up. And, you know, I do think if they're going to win the All-Ireland, they will need more from the other. They've had a lot from the other lads throughout the league and throughout the championship. But, you know, like, in the big games, you know, you need to kind of see them stepping up as well.
Oh yeah, no, the excitement's building, Aaron. It's only Monday, Tuesday. I want that game to happen tomorrow night. God, it'll be brilliant. Your take? Who's going to win it, big man?
Yeah, I think Kerry, to be honest. I mean, I don't know how many times you can, with Mayo, you can go to the well and you can go through this.
It's kind of cat with nine lives.
Find a way. Like, I think, you know, I think realistically they just haven't been at the races. I think they started the league quite well, but I think halfway through in the league, the wheels kind of fell off. And, like, they've done well to even get this far, to beat your Monaghan, beat Kildare, to come through those two games when, you know, the going got tough and it looked difficult for them at different times. But yeah, you know, and I think as well, Gavin White had an absolute, you know, stormer the last day against Mayo as well. Like, you know, how are they going to deal with him? Like, when Kerry are sort of venturing forward with their wing back. So yeah, I'd fancy Kerry, to be honest.
Yeah, no, it'll be a great game to look forward to. I think these games are coming thick and fast. It's brilliant to see. And I suppose, Aaron, looking ahead to this weekend, of course, who would be your player to watch and bet of the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting one. All right. I mean, even as a Dublin fan, because I'm going to the game, I'd be excited to see what Stephen Sherlock could do against Dublin. I think he's a very, very good player. Be interesting to keep an eye on him. We'll go game by game. Derry Clare, I think Owen Cleary have a big game. And Cathal O'Connor actually around midfield, because I think the midfield battle there is going to be very, very, very important. So maybe we'll go with him. Then Galway Armagh. Yeah, I mean, Charlie O'Burns, wing back, why not? And
it's brilliant last day.
He was, yeah, kicked, I think scored 3 points, I think. So he could have a big game, sort of. Because like the Galway Armagh might be tight and close going into the final few minutes, where you need sort of some of those players to step up. And Kerry Mayo, yeah, I mean Clifford's always the one to watch, isn't it? But it'd be interesting to see who picks him up, though. Like, I mean, I don't know, like, if
that'll be brilliant. I think everyone will have their eyes on that. Yeah.
Like, O'Hara hasn't started the last 2 games now in the championship, so you know, you can't put Oisin Mullen on him, in my opinion. I don't think you put Keegan on him, but then you're stopping Keegan's sort of venturing runs up the field as he does.
And that's something I was saying to you last week as well. Like, because like if Mayo are struggling up front, I think, you know, the Mayo half backlines will be kind of, you know, they'll be, you know, occupied by the Kerry forward. So that could be a big problem for Mayo this Sunday. Like the lack of scores, if, you know, if Keane O'Connor and Mr. O'Donoghue's not firing, Aaron.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely could be all right. Like, and that's the thing, is that they have been so, you know, very reliant on those defensive players, and with them pushing forward, it does leave space in behind for Kerry to break on the counter attack. And I just think that is going to be their game plan, because, you know, Kildare should have beaten them. Like, they had so many chances. Like, Daniel Flynn was, you know, running through on goal, obviously blocks out wide, but just so many opportunities to go and win that game. And, you know, like, with the talent level of the Kerry forwards, I just don't think they'll squander those chances. Like, they'll bury a lot of those chances, to be honest. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do, you know, with Clifford. But could Mayo surprise us and just, you know, go full blanket, full defensive, and just mirror what Kerry do? I don't see it, to be honest, because they haven't played like that ever. Do you know what I mean? Like, so it'd be crazy just to do. You can't learn a system like that in 2 weeks, to be honest. So they won't play like that. But yeah, I'd be very curious to see what they do with Clifford, because maybe they bring O'Hara back in and say, look, redemption, you know.
But sure, who could mark him? Like, what do you do? Like, it's just
yeah.
Like, it's like one of the 8 wonders of the world. Well, from my point of view, I'll go with, probably maybe upset the odds, but I might go with Galway maybe to sneak it. I mean, sneak it against Armagh. I think Shane Walsh and Damien Comer might let rip in Croker. I think the Croke Park experience of Galway alone might serve them well. And look, we'll just say David Clifford's player to watch, because he's worth the admission fee alone. So we'll look forward to it this weekend. Aaron Prendergast, thanks a million for joining me this week. And of course, this podcast is brought to you by Orgretch.com and Atak.ie. Use promo code JMac podcast to get 15% off on Orgretch.com. Get the best skins, gloves, equipment on Atak.ie. Be attack minded. If you like this Kerry jersey, get it on Orgretch.com and use my promo code to get 15% off. Get sorted for this weekend. Aaron Prendergast, thanks a million.
Yeah, top man, John. Much appreciated.
And Kevy, if you're out there somewhere, thanks a million too. Cheers, guys.